Anyway, we do have a question. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
That's
Thank you for waiting.
This is a programming type question.
Sure.
Last year, halfway through, you dropped Supernatural and Much Music or something, picked up all the reruns. Is there a special reason? Was it like
Here's
a contract?
the answer to that one.
We'll talk to someone from programming.
Which, I mean, we're not programmers, and
Yeah.
you're not rolling on this or uploading this to YouTube, right? Right?
Not anymore.
It usually comes down to ratings, and in this case, there's also been, I don't know if you've noticed it, a shakeup in the way that many of Bell Media's channels have been presented. Much Music is no longer Much Music. It's now just called Much. It's focused on edgy comedic programming for a younger demographic. So now you've got shows like South Park, Tosh.0, Jimmy Fallon. So it's a totally different channel than the music, younger audience focused channel that it was. And MTV, which if you remember had a lot of live shows that were very edgy and really pushed the boundaries, no longer are they that at all. Now that's sort of Much stuff, and now MTV is all about young people doing incredible things. So a series like Supernatural, which is in what, it's like 40th season now, or it's 45th season? I have a clip, and I could bring it to you, of an interview with Jensen around season 2, where he says, and this is almost a direct quote, "I don't want to be one of those shows that goes 10 seasons and nobody cares anymore. I want to like end on a bang." And they had an awesome 5th season where they battled the devil and won. They beat the greatest evil of all time, and they've done like 17 seasons since.
Yeah. And that got us into trouble with the fans, because we were told on set, well, this is the final season. It's going to go out with great. Well, I talked to Eric Kripke and some of the other writers, and they were like, yeah, we're just moving towards the end. This would be great. And somehow it got out that, and I think on Space we said, the final season of Supernatural. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It'll keep going.
It's, I can't tell you too much. I don't know about Supernatural, but in talking with other crews on other series, sometimes the people creating the show want to conclude it, and then it's the, American companies that finance the show that say, no, we can keep making money off this, we can give you more money. And when you are working on a show, you can't just think about the fact that it's, your stars who are still doing it. It's the guys who are the grips, the lighting guys that, they have, which in this industry is a difficult thing to find, a full-time job on a regular series where they can continue to, get income and feed their family. So a lot of the times the stars might think like, well, it might be better for my career to go and explore something new, but they've, become great friends and family with the crew, and so for them, they might, sacrifice a little bit and stick around. But as far as moving Supernatural off of Space, wasn't our decisions. No. We don't have anything to do with programming, but it was likely someone somewhere was looking at charts and said, hey, this might do better on this channel at this time. That's what it always comes down to. But
Okay, thanks.
hopefully you can still watch it somewhere. And we got another question.
Hi.
Hey.
In a perfect world, like if you guys could like really, really choose what to put on Space, would you guys have like a real equal balance of like Canadian content and some of the more popular foreign stuff, or would you are you guys satisfied with what you guys have now as like a product that you're selling type of thing?
Well, I'd say in a perfect world it would all be Canadian, but that would mean that we'd have to be producing tons of amazing Canadian product, and then we wouldn't air Doctor Who. So, Doctor Who isn't Canadian. So, I mean, in a perfect world, I think it would be a good balance of stuff. And you know what the thing is, I don't know if you heard the announcement about Killjoys. I didn't mention it earlier, but this is really exciting. Has anyone heard about Killjoys? It's from the same production company, Temple Street Productions, who does Orphan Black. They've announced a new dramatic 1-hour television series. I think it's probably set to come out in 2014, maybe 2015. That is a hard sci-fi series about assassins on distant planets. There's like a triangle, what do you call it? 3 planets that are in a solar system together, and they have different economies, different belief systems, and there's this ongoing drama based around these assassins chasing one another, that sort of stuff. I should have done a better job remembering the exact plot, but reading it looks cool. Just look up, Killjoys, give it a Google, and you'll find out about this series. So there are great new original Canadian series that are coming out and that are, hard sci-fi. But if it's good content, who cares where it's from? I just want good content, right? What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, well, way back in the day when we launched, I thought it was really important that we have a Canadian series, and I think the very first original space show was Lex, which was shot right here in Halifax. And that was really cool to be part of a brand new station and actually have new Canadian programming. The trouble is that the team of Canadian producers and you know, that pool of people is relatively small, and through no fault of their own, a lot of them have moved to the States. So the ability for space to go and say, let's create a whole bunch of shows is very, very difficult. One nice thing is, I don't know how this happened, but in teaming up or being sold to CTV and Bell, we now have 3 or 4 shows where we used to have 2 a year. We now have more than that. The other thing that smart viewers have noticed is that because of the way we spend our money, we can't do 22 episodes, but we can give you 10 great episodes of Killjoys or 10 or 12 great episodes of Orphan Black. But to your point, too, about overall and in a perfect world, I've always pushed for international programming, and I want us to get programs from France. There's some really cool stuff that I saw that I thought was really great. Ironically, they said to me, oh, well, we've got a show that I'm sure you're going to love. It's called Top of the Lake. And I watched it, and I thought, it's not us. It's Bravo. You should give it to Bravo. But I promise you, if good stuff comes by that I really like, and I'm not a programmer, I'm just kind of one of the geeks in the office that they ask.
He's consulted on many things.
Consultant.
He's like
yes.
Yoda, wise.
Yes. But it's really, that's the thing, and I've always wanted us to have more anime, which for whatever reason we don't seem to be able to do well with. I think Teletoon and your old channel.
YTV, yeah.
Is that what they were called? Is that who they were?
My old show, YTV, yeah. I don't think they air anime on
Anymore.
YTV anymore either.
Yeah.
It's like a video on demand service for people who are into anime.
But your question is really at the heart of what space is. We keep trying to define ourselves. And what fascinates me is that the audience is so reactive. So we put Castle on, and we got thousands of people going, what does Castle have to do with space? So, I mean, and it was, I think you interviewed Nathan Fillion, or was it Teddy?
Teddy did.
So Teddy...
Nathan Fillion was like, why is it on space?
that was his opening. Teddy, he just turned to Teddy and said, you're showing Castle. The fans all told me you're showing Castle. What the hell's up with that?
You know what,
And
though?
Teddy said, well, you're in it.
Yeah. And it does really well in the ratings, and my parents had never really watched Castle, and now whenever I go home or talk to my parents, you seen that episode of Castle? We're watching the Castle all the time. We're watching Castle like 3 days, or 3 times a day.
And the other thing that happens, that's because ideally I thought, well, everybody is going to want new programming. But our fans love the reruns. In fact, they're calling for things like Babylon 5 and X-Files to come back onto space. And so your question is wonderful, but it's really complicated because you want to have room for new things. You want to have room for Canadian programming. There's some reruns that are really beloved. And from my own perspective, there's a lot of science fiction television that's been kind of overlooked and forgotten and people don't know about. And it would be fun to pull some of those things out of the drawer and put back on. But I really, just to bring this full circle, I'm really pleased that right now we're putting a lot of money into Canadian production. And I haven't seen Bitten, but the stuff I've seen for season 2 of Orphan Black was great. Really, really liked it. And we're going to be involved in a co-pro on a show. Who here's a big reader? Who reads the big fantasy books? Who has read Susanna Clarke's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell? It's getting turned into a 6-part television show. And that is so awesome. This is the book that Neil Gaiman said is probably the best fantasy book since Lord of the Rings. This is a really great book that I would recommend to everybody, except for AJ, because it's this thick and it would take you 3 years to read.
I read video game manuals, and that's about it.
Anyway, I hope that's a satisfying, but a great question.
Thanks for the question.
Complicated answer.
Thank you.
It's called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Clarke with an E.
Hal-Con.